so he enters a plea on Monday. That evidently triggers some time for discovery. And that is what we're waiting to see whether or not we would have access to, and that will be again up to the U.S. Attorney and up to Representative Smith's lawyers as to whether or not we would have access to that. That's completely outside our control. But I think it behooves us as we go through this to get as much evidence as we can, and it behooves, and we need to wait to see whether we would have access to that.
Is the committee's hands tied in any way by Fitzgerald's refusal to provide evidence?
His refusal to. So the committee's hands are I think, significantly tied by the criminal proceeding and his desire to not have us interfere with that by doing our own investigation. I mean, I'm not surprised that they didn't turn over evidence to us. I'm frankly not surprised that they would say, don't do your own investigation, but that does really limit what we can do. We can't subpoena the confidential source, the letter from the letter that went to the Capital Development Board. I mean, none of that is available to us.
So you feel stymied?
Well, we would like to have all that before us as we consider this, because it's, we're going to be considering expelling Representative Smith. I'd like to have as much evidence as possible. It's just simply not the case right now.
Do you think you can still expel him by the end of the spring session?
I'm not going to set a timeline on it, and that will be up to the committee to make a determination as to what if any penalty there will be.
Do you expect that the federal folks will have some kind of agreement with him on a plea? Are you interpreting that out of, or getting any signals that he's going to plea?
I believe he said publicly that he's going to plead not guilty.
But you don't have any indication that he may be changing that?
I am not spoken with either Representative Smith or his lawyer, and I have no indication either way personally about that.
If he had shown up today, what would you have done? Would you have taken his testimony?
I don't know that we would have taken his testimony today. I don't know that we were prepared to do that today, mostly because we had been informed that he wasn't going to be here. So I think we would want to develop a line of questioning, I think, based on the allegations in the criminal complaint, and see what his response is.
I mean, is there any likelihood that this thing might push over to the fall, or that it might correspond more closely with the completion of a criminal case? I mean, you made that comment that that's a long time to wait, but you're left basically, potentially, with imposing sanctions against somebody who's pleading not guilty and without any direct criminal evidence.
Again, I'm not going to set a timeline, so I don't know how long it would take. And I think this is a little bit different than what happened with the Blagojevich case, because this is unfolding simultaneously with the criminal case. That seemed to take a lot. There was a lot of swirl about the investigation going on for a long time before he was arrested. So, this came out of the blue, I think, for everybody. So, the two situations are not analogous, and I think we have to be careful about setting a precedent in the House.
So could you see waiting until the criminal trial is over to conclude your business here? I mean, is it dependent on whatever happens in court?
I don't think it's dependent on what happens in court, but in the short run, I think we would like to see what could become available through the court filings and what the U.S. Attorney does through the discovery process. Unfortunately, I have a very short-term view of this right now, and it's very hard to predict months out how that's all going to play out, because it could dramatically change next week.
So you said up there that you're not inclined to subpoena him.
We're going to send a letter, and whether we send a letter or a subpoena, it's my understanding from counsel that the impact is the same. If he takes the Fifth and refuses to testify, whether we can't do any more to him by issuing a subpoena than we can by sending out a letter.
Is there anything in House rules, though, that deal with refusal to respond to a subpoena?
No, the only thing I understand is that in a criminal case, the taking of the Fifth Amendment cannot be used against the defendant. That's not true in this kind of a proceeding.
But is there like a contempt possibility or anything like that the House would be able to impose if you got a subpoena in play? You're stretching my criminal law expertise here, but I don't think so, because he has a constitutional right to not speak to us.
So are you saying that you could hold his right to not speak, his him not showing up against him in this committee?
In this kind of a proceeding, it is my understanding that the law allows us to take that into account in making a determination.
Would that be telling for you?
It would be telling for me. I'd like to see the totality of what we have at that time, but I think we have to take that into consideration.
Is the fact that his name is on the ballot in the fall a consideration in the timeline of the committee?
We have no control over whether he remains on the ballot or not, but I think that there may be things that impact us with regard to that.
But if this continues to go on until, say, the November election, and maybe some pressure is directed against you, how do you plan to take that into account?
I think our charge is set forth in the House rules. We need to be respectful to Representative Smith, to the institution of the House, and and the public pressure. I think hopefully will not factor into that.
Is there anything that would stop somebody from just filing a resolution that says we expel or censure or reprimand Representative Smith right now and then voting on it?
The House rules would stop.
Okay, the House rules would stop that.
House rules would prevent that?
Yeah.
This is the procedure.
This is the process by which that has to occur. Now that I remember that, yeah. So the only process in the House rules that can get to that point is this process.
Can you describe any interactions you've had with Representative Smith?
He came up to greet me on the House floor, his first day back on the floor. We said hello, and that was about the extent of it. And I've only seen him one other time, other than sitting across the committee room from him.
Are you intentionally keeping any sort of distance, and is there any sort of rule that says don't ask him about the investigation?
I'm not aware of any rules, but it feels inappropriate to me, and it feels that I have my duty to discharge right now, and I'm going to go about doing that.